Hello, Peter.
Okay, so it's just past 7 o'clock, so I just want to welcome everybody to the meeting. We are live streaming to Twitch as well as YouTube for those who want to watch either in real time or after the show is over. And basically, what we can do is we can get started. And we are sharing using StereoPix rooms, and so that's going to be the best way to see the photographs. And so we can get started. Um, the theme for tonight is seasons, and then of course open projector show and tell. The April meeting is always our annual meeting, so we will have elections of officers and directors, and we'll talk about that when the time comes. I'll let David get started with his photos.
Okay, here you go. Four-wheeling, yeah, anytime. Spring, summer, fall, or winter. So here's four-wheeling. There's southern Utah when it rained so hard that the road was a river. Look at the river.
And what season is that? Spring?
Spring, yes. It just goes spring, then summer, and fall, and winter. And this is called the Devil's Punch Bowl. I don't know why any idiot would try to drive their four-wheeler in there, but it's big enough for those four-wheelers that are made for four-wheeling. You can't get a Jeep in there. Down on the lower right, you can see all the places where they had to use the cable to drag them out. Oh, and here we're walking to the one of the arches, and you can see how much it had rained in the spring. Here's called a tight squeeze, and all that down on the bottom is not a rock, that's ice. It's still ice from the winter previous. So again, another spring down in southern Utah. There you drive as far as you can until you can't drive anymore. There's my brother, and he decided he'd better stop. And there they are at another place. I don't know, I didn't go with them, but they're under a great big rock and driving around. Oh, and here's summer. I don't know why somebody dug that road so deep. I can't imagine how four-wheeling did it. So, but
well,
anyway.
Maybe it was water that dug it that deep.
Who?
Water.
Could be, but this is in southern. This is in Oregon here, between here and the coast.
Okay, well, who knows?
Anyway. And yeah, who needs a bridge if you got a four-wheeler? I don't know how. He didn't want to go in there, but that was the bridge. And there was water running through those rocks. Again, this is summertime. Oh yeah, you need to try everything you could possibly can. There's my brother in his international. He's going to drive under that tree, but guess what? It's too tall. So he tried to get back out, and well, he couldn't get back out because when he tried to drive, he'd either hit his hood or he'd bang into that tree. That's my brother in the blue. So that's my son over here in the Rubicon, and so they had to chain him out of that hole so he could get out. Anyway, that was summertime. Well, I guess that was fall. I don't know why anybody would want to, but even we went four-wheeling in the winter. There's another picture. That's my son and his Rubicon in the winter. Anyway, whenever you go four-wheeling, you gotta wash your car. So we go Tillamook or bust. That's the end.
Okay, thank you, David. And Carl.
Oh. A couple of pictures.
Okay, you might want to move over a little bit. I think you're only halfway in the picture.
Oh, okay.
I should have checked when I
Oh.
set up the chairs.
Let me
And,
slide this over.
Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, I see. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Puts me right in front of the picture. This is that time of year that's like right after the snow melts, but right before anything starts living, you know, growing.
That's beautiful.
The swans didn't mind. So
Where?
that's outside of Bend.
Bend?
Yeah, I usually go up there for spring break, so
Okay.
that's when that was too. And then this is at the zoo while it was moving, and I just kind of took a picture out the window. And there's a little bit of motion blur back there in the trees from the moving train, but zoo liner.
Good. Cool.
Yeah. Also out at Bend, a lava field with the snow melting. This pretty much when the last meeting was being held. Yeah, and I think those are the sisters out looking west.
Yeah.
And
Three
then
sisters.
yeah, and then if you look south, I think that might be the next photo. Yeah, there's the lava butte.
Lava dude.
Yeah, lava, lots of lava.
Yeah. Last time I was there, they were working on the road, so we didn't get to go up there.
Yeah, I've only been there during the winter when it's been closed off, and it's actually closed off at this time too. And I kind of there was a gate that was open, so I just kind of drove in there and climbed up on top of the yeah, on top of the lava field. Good picture. Okay, so this is a I think it's pronounced Lateral Falls.
Looks like a
Lateral
bridge that right there
Falls.
by Multnomah Falls, but I don't know.
It's near Multnomah Falls. It's like the closest waterfall from Portland that I could
Yeah.
find. And I was like I was trying to do like a hyper reel of the bridge and in the with a cha-cha with the iPhone, and then the tree was a little too close, so I pushed it back in Stereo Photo Maker and cropped it, but it's still a little weird.
Looks pretty
It's
good.
a little weird, but yeah, that's fall. And this is summer, playing in the sand at the
Yeah.
beach. It's my daughter. She wanted to dig a hole, but she thought if she built up the edges that it would be deeper. So.
That's an interesting perspective, interesting point of view
Yeah, I was reaching really up high, and I was maybe standing on something to get it so that it wouldn't clip the edges with the window violation. But yeah. Oh, okay, so I don't know if this is seasons anymore. I've got some that are not seasons, but it's
We're not going to kick you out.
okay. It's a St. Patrick's Day, and there happened to be a local parade in the neighborhood where I live that I didn't really know about, but somebody told me about it. So I walked down a couple blocks, and there was a parade going on. And in this photo, they're throwing candy out of the window, and the mom and the kid are looking at a piece of candy on the ground right there. They're about to pick it up. And the kids felt like this was Halloween, but you didn't have to walk from door to door. They just would throw candy at you if you just stood there. So, yeah, it's a lucky car.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so now we're beyond the season photos, but yeah, this is a artwork, public artwork hanging from the ceiling, a bunch of blades. That's in OMSI, in front of the planetarium. Yeah.
Interesting.
And you might recognize this, maybe. It's from San Francisco. It's in the airport. I think I have two photos of this. It's also a public work of art made out of nets
Wow.
hanging from the ceiling.
Don't know how they do that.
You just walk under them. A lot of people don't notice, but
Well, a lot of people don't notice anything in front of them except their phone.
yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great shot of a great subject. Lots of public art at SFO.
Yeah, and this gives it some perspective. I think it's Concourse C, so for some reason that comes to mind. But yeah, so this is what it looked like from a distance. There are several.
I don't know how they do that, make it all different shapes. Wow.
Well, it's how you, where it's hanging from and how you tighten each rope
Yeah.
and stuff.
But-
Well, I mean, I don't understand how they make paintings look like paintings either, but there are people who do understand, so leave that job to them.
To them, yeah.
Oh yeah, Bonzi, Lego exhibit. That's a T-Rex built out of Legos.
So how long ago was that?
Not a couple of weeks ago for me. I think months ago maybe.
I haven't been to OMSI for years.
Yeah,
but they had some Lego things there.
You know, there was a Lego exhibit years ago, and I went to that one too. But this one, it might still be going on. I don't know. The way I got this photo was there was a place where I took it with the Fuji W3, and I had to set it down on this thing to hold it so that it could not blur when I took the photo.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
Nice.
Good
Good technique.
You can see the little Legos in there.
Okay,
How long it took somebody to make it, wow.
okay, and now Bob.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I started out with winter, and you'll say, well, Bob, this doesn't look like winter, but if you're in Florida in February, this is what winter looks like a couple years ago. And you know, you take the bad with the good, I guess. I think this was probably from a hurricane, eroded the beach area, and a little pier thing going on out there. But you also get the nice sunsets over the ocean.
Yeah.
And you get to see some strange critters, a manatee. And more strange creatures. I think I've shown this one before. This is in the middle of a miniature golf course. Down there they have alligators.
Wonder how many.
Fortunately, they have fences around.
I wonder how many strikes you lose if you go in there.
Yeah, I don't think you want to find out.
No, well,
I think if my ball went in there, my ball would stay in there.
yeah, that's what it is.
So this is more of a traditional winter scene. It's Bear Creek Trail near Denver, Colorado. That's my son and his newlywed with their two dogs on the same trail. This is fall in my local park. Little springtime stuff here, flowers, hydrangea, some lilies.
Did you spray the water, or that's was raining?
I think it was there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I cheat though.
Yeah, well, that's not cheating, it's creative.
Bees balm. And a zinnia.
Wow. Pretty.
This is Christmas time at the Nicholas Conservatory in Rockford, Illinois, near where Ken lives. It was my first time trying out my Beam Pro, and I was impressed with its low light sensitivity and anti-shake. These are all handheld. And when I went to work on these, when I open them up on my laptop, they open up in Microsoft Designer, which I think is AI. So I messed around with the some of the AI stuff to get some of these shots.
How true are the colors? Were they pushed any, or were they?
Yeah, I pushed them.
Yeah.
Is that the result of the AI tools?
Yeah, I think it was part of the AI tool. You could
Interesting.
saturate and all that stuff.
I just got a new Windows computer. It's got all sorts of AI stuff I haven't tried yet.
I mean, if you tried to take these with a W3 handheld, it'd be horrible.
Yeah, as dark as it must have been.
So those AI tools are just standard in Windows, or is there software that you purchase?
When I open up my photos, that's what comes up. You know, I'm such a computer expert. I take what it gives me.
I mean, I use my Windows computer as little as possible. I'll show a project later that I did with it, but I mean, so I have Windows 11, and I open it up to do what I need to do, and then quit and haven't even explored. So there's probably many things in my computer that I don't even know are there.
Yeah, I usually use Stereo Photomaker, but I use that Microsoft design for these.
Yeah, so I use Stereo Photomaker on my Mac. So I mean, you know, I'm trying to, anything that I can do on my Mac, I do on my Mac, so I don't have to mess with Windows. So anyway, okay. So thanks, Bob and Ken.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. This is magnolia trees were blooming 2 weeks ago on April 14th at the Clem Arboretum, which is a few miles away from my house. It's in Rockford, Illinois. These blooms don't last long due to our high winds, large changes in temperature, rain, so you have to catch them when you can. The winds on this day were about 20 miles an hour. This was taken with a Fuji W3.
God, those are beautiful blooms. Around where I live, Virginia, the magnolias hardly ever bloom. They might have 3 or 4 blooms at a time.
You really have to go and catch them on the right day. And the rest of these, there's 4 of them I shot with the red hydrogen 1, and I was about a foot away from the blossoms. I really liked them.
You can sort of tell because basically the branch in the back is all out of focus, and so I mean nothing wrong with it, but that's sort of a telltale sign of the close-up.
So they have there's pink magnolias and a lot of white magnolias to stalk, and then they have yellow magnolias, but those aren't in bloom yet. So. And the white ones, when you get the flowers, you have to get them right away because they tend to turn dark spots on them, which is what they got a lot last year. But this year they're kind of bright white and went.
I guess the difference is where I live, the magnolias never lose their leaves. It's inside there right after blooming.
And I like this one. I thought that was a good close. And there you see the, like you say, the background is blurry.
Okay, thanks, Ken. And Jim.
Winter in Portland, or the tail end of winter, but the snowman still there.
No carrot for a nose, huh?
No, that must have fallen out. Maybe the eyes too.
I think I see it on the ground there.
Some more blooming trees. This is with the W3 with the 1-2 setting. And this one. And that tulip tree at the corner.
You need to do a little better alignment. That arrow sign is vertically misaligned.
Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Did you try to align them with Stereo Photomaker or not?
I think I did, but I don't remember. But you're right about the sign.
Yeah, anyway.
It detracts from the picture anyway. Same kind of pictures as you were saying before this.
Must have been about in the evening time for a shadow angle.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Interesting.
Flowering trees in the neighborhood. Looking up.
That's pretty.
And I think that's probably a dogwood. And I think that's a tulip sticking up there, but there's the tree and most interesting part is that tree.
Any idea how they made the tree grow like that?
No, I don't know if it just grows that way or if it did something to make.
Bizarre. Wow.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And Lee?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Turns out most of my pictures that end up being seasons, I end up doing fall pictures. This was out probably in the Grand Tetons among some of the trees there.
Wow.
And this was near Jenny Lake, which is in, I can't remember Yellowstone or Tetons, but I was getting the reflections of the trees in the water there.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Beautiful.
And that is probably west of one of the Utah Capitol Reef, I believe, just west of it. There was this cottonwood tree down in the creek there.
Yeah.
I thought it stuck out. And who knows where that is? Somewhere looking down the road somewhere.
Lots of leaves.
Uh-huh. Oh yes, this is out in Utah. There was this rotten log there. And so I picked up a bunch of leaves and put them on top of the log, so they weren't naturally there.
That's clever.
Yeah.
And who knows that? I think that's somewhere in Georgia. The leaves were really bright there, so I took a picture of them. Okay, I need to tell a story here. I lost my wife 19 years ago. Those flowers are in our cemetery plot. And I put the flowers, but I tried to catch the trees in the background at the right time when they could look just as pretty. And what I end up saying is God does a better job of decorating than I can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's always there, every year.
And that's some other bright red tree up somewhere.
It's beautiful.
Such a great sky, too.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And George.
Yes, hi guys. I grew up in Greece, Athens, Greece, and we didn't have any weather to speak of. Cold in the winter, warm in the summer, but nothing much going on. When I came to Ohio, I got to experience all four seasons quite strongly here. Now I want to compare with you, but I put Seattle instead of Portland. Sorry about that, but the weather is not very different. I mean, about the same sunny days and same amount of rain, but the difference is in the snow. I don't think you guys get a lot of snow, right?
That's correct.
Not much. Nope.
Yes. Well, let's see the next picture. Here, snow starts sometime in November. This picture is labeled first snow. Early November and goes until April maybe.
Wow.
With the most snow during January and February. This is Brandywine Falls, a nice waterfall in Cuyahoga Valley Park, which is a couple of miles from my house. And to photograph it, I photographed in every season, but the winter is my favorite. Next.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to walk down those steps. It's probably pretty icy.
Yes. But guess what? The next one is from the observation point there, looking at the frozen falls, but they're not completely frozen. Some water is running there. Next. Typical winter scene, no leaves in the trees, snow and ice in the river. Of course, I think I mentioned that Vinny loved winter. He's an animal that likes the cold, so he didn't mind at all going out at any temperature in the winter. Next, and I told you that one of my hobbies is running, and you'd be surprised that people are running in winter. The race is happening almost every month, so snow and ice are part of the deal, I guess. Next.
Do they wear cleats?
Yeah, maybe if it's icy. Trail shoes. One race, the coldest ever been, was one race, the morning of the race was below zero. I mean, this is really cold for us. Only a few days in the year it goes below zero, but the races happen. But it so happened this year we had this terrible weather where it rained and it got cold, so the trails had a layer of ice. For the first time since I started running 15 years ago, races were cancelled because of the ice, postponed because of the ice on the trails. That was extremely dangerous. Next.
So there must be more to this picture than that.
Looks like number one again.
Yeah, that was the finish line of one of the winter races.
Yeah, is she just running or is she jumping across?
Oh, her trademark is at the finish line she will jump. This was a trademark, so I knew that. So I was waiting here for her to do the jump, so I photographed her, at the high point of her jump. She's crossing the finish line, so she's happy and she's jumping. That was something she always did at the finish line.
And she landed on her feet and then slide.
Yes, it was okay. I don't know why they gave her number one, though. I don't know that story.
Maybe she was the first to register.
Maybe. And now we go to fall, and fall here is also a very interesting season. There's a lot of color. Next. It's one of my favorite seasons, really. This is another waterfall here locally. The leaves, they have this warm color. And one suggestion I have, if you take pictures and using JPEG files, you should switch from auto color to something like cloudy day. Because if you have automatic color, then it will try to get this warmth out and make your pictures kind of grayish.
Yeah, I wish some of these cameras had a raw setting.
Yeah, it's like the Fuji. What setting?
a raw.
Raw, okay.
In other words, where it's not
Yes.
JPEG, in other words, it's normally more than 8 bits. It's like often RAW is 12 or 16 bits, and like SLR cameras have RAW settings.
Yes, a raw file does not contain, does not change does not have any color temperature information. This happens when it's converted to JPEG.
Understood. So yeah, if you have a RAW file, when you open it up, you have to tell it what kind of light you had.
Exactly. And in my Sony cameras, you can bracket the color temperature, and you only take one picture, and then the camera will use different settings when it processes the JPEG to give you maybe 2 or 3 at different color temperatures.
George, I love the composition on this one. That's just beautiful.
Oh, thanks. And you don't have to go really far away. I was just running on a road, and then I look at this house in the fall, and this tree had beautiful colors. And of course you have, the leaves, you can take close-ups. Next, and a lot of things are happening in the color in the fall that are worth photographing, festivals, pumpkins, a lot of interesting events to take pictures. So it's a nice season for photography. And I don't know, okay, well, of course there's running. Maybe fall is the best season for running. The temperatures are a little bit cooler and it's more scenic if you run trails. Next. And this is from a race. Very nice. Now, this bird, it's an oriole. I told my wife, tell me how this is pronounced. Because it's not pronounced as it's spelled. So this for me is the bird of the spring. Right now I'm waiting, in the first week of May, those birds should come here. The first birds to migrate in our area, and the first ones to leave out too. And they're very colorful. I like this orange, and we put them in the feeder some jelly, and they come at the beginning, they're very hungry from their long trip, and then kind of disappear to go and have children, and then they leave again. So I'm waiting for them to come, and of course, then you have the summer, green, warm temperatures, and I have to confess, for running, because I grew up in a warm environment, I prefer the heat over the cold. Occasionally it gets really hot, it's not very comfortable, but I still prefer to feel hot than feel cold. And that's it.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so what I tried to do was just pick one photo from each season. So I went through and I said, okay, what's a good photo? I was looking for photos that I had never shown before at a club meeting and representative of the season. So here's what I came up with for spring. And I like this photo because you can sort of see that it's spring throughout the whole, photo. All the trees are spring, and then, some hikers out early in the spring. So, and then summer, Portland has this thing called Sand in the City, where they truck in sand from the beach and set it up in Pioneer Courthouse Square, and then have teams can register, and each team gets like about a 12 by 12 foot patch of ground, and I don't know how much sand, and they can build their, whatever sculptures they want. So, interesting summer event in Portland.
Do they have to add water to it?
They're allowed to use anything that isn't permanent. So they can't use cement, they can't use, steel rods or wood. But they can mix sand and water in whatever proportions they want. And then this was basically, like You know this is fall just by looking at it. You don't need to know what temperature it is or anything else. And then you know this is winter. Those are my 4 photos.
Very nice.
And Mark.
Yeah, so I did kind of the same thing. I tried to pull up a few pictures of each season. So George is right, we don't get much snow very often in Portland here, but once in a while we do. So I had to go out and capture a heavy snowfall a few years back here. That's what this is. It was just wet enough that it stacked up like that on top of fire hydrants and anything else, fence posts. And somebody's car had an amazing icicle that started melting and refreezing there too. So then we moved to spring. These are skunk and cabbage. They seem to be fairly common over toward the coastal areas, not so much around Portland. But in the springtime, they pop into bloom and they've got these big yellow flowers.
They grow wild?
Yes. I'm not exactly sure why they call them skunk cabbage. They don't have a offensive odor that I've ever noticed, so I'm not sure about that name.
Some more.
A little closer shot of them. They seem to like marshy, wet areas, so you can see they're kind of growing in water. They're almost like a swamp.
So, fun fact, the city of Chicago is actually named after skunk cabbage. The native word for it was, I believe, Chicago, and they translated that to Chicago. And that's what it was. The place with the skunk cabbage.
Oh, that's interesting trivia.
They're just pretty. They're not edible or anything.
I don't know if they're edible or not.
They are edible. They smell nasty though.
Maybe I've never got close enough to smell one. All right, then we move to summer, and after summer, let's go to Phoenix. So these are from a trip to Phoenix in the summertime. There you can see part of the suburbs of Phoenix out in the background there.
Yeah.
Colorful flowers in the foreground though. It's definitely warm there. I have a story about this shot. I couldn't dig up anything easily for fall. So I decided to go ahead and show this one. This was actually shot 50 years ago by my grandfather. He was aware of 3D, but did not intend this to be a 3D image. He went out in a rowboat, and my grandparents owned that cottage there, that lake cottage in Wisconsin. And he just wanted to get a good picture of it, so he snapped off a few shots, and meanwhile his boat drifted just enough that when I put them together as a stereo photo maker, I found a nice stereo image.
Well, that's amazing. It's beautiful.
It was not intended to be 3D, but it worked out pretty well.
Great story. Did you publish this in stereo world? I think I've heard it before.
A long time back, I think 20, 25 years ago, I did a little short article about it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Definitely has some nice fall colors going there.
Okay, and now some open projectors. So David.
Well, there's no title. This is part of Kanab, Utah. This place is called Wipeout Hill. And that's my son going back up Wipeout Hill. And most of these pictures are not in 3D, but go ahead and show my son going up. There he is. You can see how steep it is. And the reason he did good was he had my grandson up there telling him go this way, no, go this way, go, and directing him from the view. Anyway, one more. There they are going up the steepest part of Wipeout Hill. And there they are over that. Now, all the rest of the next ones I got off the internet, and I just went to YouTube and typed in Wipeout Hill, and these are some pictures that I just made two so they could show, but they're not in 3D.
So you ought to use the Leia, boy, I can't remember now, they renamed their
I think it's Immersity or
Immersity.
Yeah, Immersity, and you could convert all of that to 3D.
I tried to convert that to 3D, but it just looked horrid, and so I left it as it is. But there's somebody trying to go up that part of that same hill. Next shot, he got just so his front wheel was up in the air, and he stepped on the gas real hard, and it threw his car off to the right. Next, there it is, and he threw it some more. He stepped on the gas hard, and you can see this guy with a star on his coat. He was getting the heck out of there. And
So
there's
they
the
didn't turn.
car.
Oh, there it is.
There's the car as it finally stopped. And apparently nobody was hurt, but the car was wasted. The next one is another line. This is another car that decided to go out Wipeout Hill. And one of the pictures I have has that same bush, so I know it's Wipeout Hill, but I didn't show it. Anyway, they got started. He gets to that really steep part. These pictures were all taken from a different position. I was to the left, this picture was to behind, etc. But right there you can see he started up the hill, and his front end went up, and he stepped on the gas as hard as he could. Oh, look at that. And the front flipped way over the top, and next one, and it rolled over clear on top, and then the next one landed on its side, and you can see the guy's arm sticking out there. I just don't know. And one more shot. Anyway, that's how it finally stopped. And the guy that took all these pictures was a wrecker truck in that area. It probably charged those guys more than $1,000 to get their four-wheeler backing on the road. And anyway, the other way to get up Wipeout Hill is with a real, four-wheel thing that's made to do four wheels. And you see there's several people in there, and you can see they're going pretty fast, but that guy knows what he was doing. Anyway.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And Matt.
Hey all, I wanted to give an update on a presentation that we gave, a live presentation that was last week on Wednesday. And I have a brief slideshow. I think I selected 10 slides out of the whole 174 slide slideshow. These are made by Andrew J. Russell. He was the Union Pacific photographer of the building of the Transcontinental Railway. And he made some amazing glass plate stereo views. And he's unique amongst Western photographers in that he focused primarily on the people who he encountered. There is a person here under those rocks. That is Andrew J. Russell. There's some humor in this one. You can call it a selfie. His assistant certainly made the exposure. And
you can improve this quite a bit by pushing it back in the window. It's way out front of the window.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I'm not sure how that happened. It wasn't like that when we projected it. I might have sent you an older version. Let's try some other ones. Let's just go through these. These, of course, were made for stereo cars. That's how they were first viewed and distributed. And they'd never really been projected until we got a hold of them. The original negatives are curated by the Open Museum of California. And they made high-resolution scans available, which we downloaded and restored. There's a lot of damage to these old slides. The glass itself is intact, but the the chemicals, the collodion has sort of decayed over time, and some retouching was required on most of these.
So Matt, you want to say anything like you did last Saturday about the collodion process?
Well, I will say that it was a very challenging technique. It was, high tech at the time. Wet collodion photography is the name of the technique. And I do have a something written up that I'll say about it. It's not totally, it's antique. It's not necessarily obsolete. Some photographers still do practice this art today in 2D and in stereo. Collodion is a kind of transparent glue that's used to affix the photosensitive silver salts to the glass plate. It's called wet collodion photography because the photo had to be exposed while the chemicals were still wet on the plate, still transparent, and in fact it had to be developed while they were still wet also. So the photographer had to bring these chemicals with him, mix them up on site, immediately expose the plate, and then they had to have a darkroom tent set up behind them where they could immediately process it. Exposure time was not what we would consider instantaneous. These are all still lifes. This exposure might have been 10, 15 seconds or so. What we're really seeing here is the photographer's mastery of his subjects, getting everyone here to stand perfectly still, except in fact for the people laying the last rail. The title of this slide is Chinese Laying Last Rail, and you can barely discern them. They're just sort of the motion blur in the middle ground there. This one's a lot of fun. He shot a lot of landscapes, and if you look hard, you can see there are people scaling this sheer cliff. These are surveyors and photographers hauling a camera up there. These were huge cameras. Russell's camera weighed somewhere around 30 pounds. He had a wagon full of chemicals and pure water and glass plates that he had to haul everywhere. And of course, these surveyors were kind of on their own. No safety equipment, no lines, no ladders. It's just them and nature. The main subject of the slideshow, of course, is the Transcontinental Railroad. I'm a stereo photographer. I don't really know much about rail. These slideshows attract a lot of rail enthusiasts, and their technical questions I can't really answer. I can just admire these machines. And so for this brief slideshow, this is the only engine that we'll see. I mentioned that Russell was a photographer of people who he encountered. He obviously, as I said, had a rapport with them. He also liked to pose his subjects in kind of precarious situations like standing on cliff edges or hanging off tree limbs. I think we might see more of that. I had mentioned that one of the slides was titled Chinese Laying Last Rail, and I think it's well known that Chinese laborers completed the most difficult part of the line, the West Coast line through the Sierra Nevadas. These are primarily Mormon laborers. This is in the leg to Promontory Point, Utah. where the two lines, the Eastern Union Pacific line and the Western Central Pacific line met.
Those are some pretty rough looking ties.
Yeah, there's a whole selection of trestles and bridges, and I tell the audience to ask themselves how comfortable they would be riding over those. Now, the Union Pacific did get cited for some sort of incomplete work. They did have to go back and upgrade some of it. And a lot of this, of course, may just be sort of preliminary to haul supplies in for further construction. But all the labor was done on hand. It was all done. It was all done with hand tools. This is the paymaster's car at Promontory Point, Utah. I'm guessing this is payday. This is near the completion of the project. I just think there's some nice depth in this one. And again, Russell's skill at posing all of these people, even the guy with his hat up in the air standing still. And you have to consider that for a lot of these people, this may have been the first time in front of a camera. This was 1868, 1869. Photography had been around for, the technique that was being used here to make these photos was less than 20 years old. It would be another 5 years before Muybridge would really capture motion on film. So these are very early, and considering how challenging technique is, technically they're real masterpieces.
Matt, could I say something?
Yes.
There is an arch near that area that I have photographed. It originally was called Chinaman's Arch in Utah, but they decided that was not nice to the Chinese, so they renamed it Chinese Arch.
Okay.
And there were thousands of Chinese workers on that train.
Indeed, yeah. Because of the part of the construction that A.J. Russell photographed, we really don't see any Chinese laborers. But they're definitely there. And as I said, they did the hard part. The Union Pacific line was much longer, but the Central Pacific line was much harder to build.
I see that there's two wires in there. If that must be a power line, because the telegraph back a long time was only one wire, and they used the ground, the earth, as the return ground.
Okay. I'll take your word for that. In fact, there is a photo in this collection of telegraph line runners, and I think there is only one line, as you said. I'm not sure if it's in this collection. But yeah, as I recall it, it's just one wire.
Yeah.
So the railroad would also have their own private line, so it's probably one is the public telegraph and the other is the railroad's private line.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. For this photo, as I said, he photographed a lot of people. He posed a lot of people for these sittings or these portraits as well. There's also a lot of evidence that he had some sort of side hustles going on as a portrait photographer and as a stereo portrait photographer. And it makes sense. He was the official photographer of the Union Pacific. He did have exclusive access, and he was his supplies were provided for, paid for by the Union Pacific, but he wasn't actually paid a salary by the Union Pacific. He made his money publishing the photos that he made as stereo cards, either for national distribution, and there was a hungry audience for these photos to see the progress of this moonshot project of the 19th century. But he also made photos and sold directly to the laborers, the engineers, the surveyors, the supervisors, the people who he met along the way. So there's a broad range of photos in this collection. And this is such an unusual photo. There are a lot of photos of people with their horses, some with their dogs in this collection. I think this one, tells a story on its own. I don't have anything to say about it. I don't know if Russell had to convince this group of tourists to climb this formation. They probably weren't already there. I don't know if they took much convincing. It definitely says something about Russell, his ability to get people to pose. It's a great 3D shot. And, people wanted to be photographed. They knew that they were in a place and time in history. And, they wanted to be a part of that. And we see a lot of that in this slideshow. Here's another group of tourists at another place behaving just as irrationally. And I would just say Russell had a sense of humor too. He had some kind of an eye. He certainly wasn't an artist. He was, a working photographer, but some of his photos, stereo photos, certainly did approach fine art. And the last thing I'll say, this is a very hyper shot. We projected this at the Internet Archive at their headquarters in San Francisco. This is something we've been working on for a couple months now. The Internet Archive is interested in showing 3D content. They have weekly events with speakers, lecturers, or slideshows, movies. And they have a lot of 3D content in their archive that's sort of trapped. They've never really exposed it for the public before. And my club, the Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society, has been working with them. And this was sort of our test run, a show of 174 photos, of which those 10 that I showed you were taken. It's a 2-hour show. We've given it several times. This is a project we put together a couple of years ago. But I'm happy to say that this live event was really well attended. There was a lot of interest in the subject and in the 3D. The projection system worked. We used projectors owned by the Internet Archive, and I provided the projector stand and the filters, the circular polarized filters. And we used the old Oakland Camera Club silver screen. I'm guessing it's from the 70s or the 80s or something. But amazingly, it all worked. They want us back. They want us back. Like next week, I had to push back. We'll do something later in May. But it's great to have found a venue that is not only open to 3D, but is really actively recruiting us to give them more. Our next show will be art photography, I'm sure. And I hope that this works out. It would be great if San Francisco had a place for 3D, because it really doesn't now. And then the final slide is just another view of the slides from the rear we're setting up. And of course, the projected image is really blown out, partially because it's a silver screen, very reflective. But I'm happy to report that it was a success. We'll do more. Oh, and one more thing. The archivist in charge of Andrew J. Russell's glass plate negatives at the Oakland Museum of California did read about it. She showed up. She had never seen them in 3D before. So that was a real eye-opener for her. And hopefully we'll be able to go to the Oakland Museum of California and show them, what they've got that they're not even aware of.
Will the Internet Archive put this program on the Internet?
This program we did not live stream or record, just because there were... This was sort of a proof of concept. For our next presentation, I think we will live stream it, and it'll be recorded on probably on their website. For this specific presentation, Andrew J. Russell and the westward expansion in 3D, we will probably be giving it online sometime in the next 12 or 24 months. And I did give an abridged version, a 20-slide version, for the New York Stereoscopic Association on Saturday. Those are anaglyphs, but that will be posted on our YouTube channel probably in a week or two, so you can get a taste of it at least.
And they have a new
whose website?
That would be the New York Stereoscopic Association's YouTube channel.
And the New York Stereoscopic Association has a new website, thanks to Jay Kuznets. He has been doing a lot of work on it. It's still under development. It's wonderful now, and it's getting better. Because basically, what Jay is working on to be released shortly is basically it's a WordPress plugin, because their website is WordPress, so that you would be able to look at any image using basically a StereoPix Rooms plugin. So he's basically taken the StereoPix Rooms code and adapted it to run as a WordPress plugin. So when you're looking at the website, each of the images, each of the photos on the website, you can choose whether you want to view it in parallel or cross-eyed or anaglyph, any of the formats. And so basically, Jay is doing a wonderful job with that website. So
fantastic to hear.
And so basically, what will if you watch the YouTube recordings, then of course you see the presentation in anaglyph, but you get the audio with it. But if you just go to the website to look at the images, then you can view them however you want. So
that's very promising.
Well, Matt, those are fascinating images, and I appreciate you sharing those. I would encourage you, if you have time and want to put the effort in. I'm sure John Dennis and Stereo would love to run an article about that and put a bunch of those images as well, if you get a chance to send him something.
Yeah, absolutely. This won't be the last time that we share these slides. You've given the show maybe half a dozen times over the years, and that's I think that's sort of a logical next step.
Okay. I would also encourage you to run those through Stereoscopic Maker to fix a lot of the window errors, and some of them had vertical alignment problems too that Stereoscopic Maker probably fix pretty easily.
Yeah, it looks like I sent probably an older batch, unfortunately. The actual slideshow has better alignment, and we've fixed the those window violations. They also have titles, too, so that makes it a little easier, although I will say Russell was very creative in his titles. A lot of the times the titles have like location names, monument names that he's just making up just to make the card more interesting. So it doesn't really, they're not very informative titles, but they do exist.
Yeah, I was going to say something about that. My grandfather had a similar style. He was a photographer in the 30s and 40s, and he had a portrait studio in Amsterdam, and then moved to Indonesia, where he also started publishing books of photos that he had posed, again, just like this, where he posed people in, what he saw as their traditional, doing their traditional activities, when in real life, they didn't really depict that. They were culturally inaccurate in a lot of ways, and exploited in a lot of ways. But at the same time, he also published books in the Indonesian language of how to do photography, like darkroom techniques for the locals. So it was kind of a double-edged sword of colonialism, where he felt he was teaching everybody when in reality he wasn't necessarily teaching as much as he thought.
Yeah, it's a complicated story, and of course, the Transcontinental Railroad, in this case, opened up new lands for settlement. But of course, there were already people there, and there were entire nations there that were destroyed by this project. And Russell didn't photograph that so much. So you really have to read between the lines. He was a propagandist. He was. There are certain. You have to read between the lines and realize what he's not photographing. As well.
That's kind of what I recognized in the work was the fact that he definitely worked for the railroad.
Yes, he wasn't a journalist. He was, delivering what the railroad wanted and what the public wanted.
So Pat, I have a question about your projection setup. From the front view, I can see the polarizing filters were way out of alignment being horizontal, but I'm assuming circular polarizers, they don't need to be parallel to the bottom? Do they work if they're tilted or rotated?
Yeah, they don't need to be exact. They don't need to be aligned exactly vertical or horizontal. I think those positions were really to accommodate a color cast that we were getting from the filters, and that was about the best that we could get. It's a very imprecise system. I'm no Eric Herlin. We used to project, and as I said, that's when we were called the Open Camera Club. Really, we were the Open Projection Club because we spent half of our meeting setting up and aligning the projectors. But the Internet Archive wants a permanent 3D projection system. This is not it, but as a proof of concept it worked, and I'll be sort of pushing them to upgrade the system because at some point, someone's going to nudge the table or trip over an extension cord or something, and show's over. we gave up projection and switched to a 3D TV, which we still have and still use. It had been a while since we had done any sort of projection.
So it was pre-pandemic since the last time the Cascade Stereoscopic Club did any 3D projection.
Yeah, for us it would have been February 2020.
Herb, can you go back one image to see the polarizers I was talking about there? Yeah, they're, in the old days, the linear polarizers are not at work, but circular must be more forgiving than...
Yeah, it's more forgiving. The glasses are, easily found. We have a member who manages a movie theater. He has, a case of these things. They're just the real D format glasses.
Which the real D, I mean, that's the same thing that we use on the 3D TV that we're watching.
Same circular polarized system.
Yeah. And basically, you can even get these clip-on, flip-up glasses.
Yeah. Us pros brought our clip-ons.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for accommodating me.
And Jim. Jim, can you see it?
No, I don't see the picture. I just see the club.
Oh, is your Stereopic's room stuck?
Well, I don't know. I saw the room up till now.
Does everybody else
look have it on a pedestal?
Does everybody else see rooms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Twitch stream works.
Okay.
Rabbit in pajamas.
Yes. Okay, well, I can just go through these quickly, and if you get your rooms working, we can go back to these.
That's funny because one minute ago I was watching a time. I was watching Matt's presentation.
Sometimes Stereopic's rooms does crash. You might have to reload it.
That's not cool.
Yeah, I had to reload mine during part of it.
No, I saw it for a moment. Oh, what am I looking at? I'm looking at Mike's pictures.
Okay, we can come back to this later.
Okay,
Nice photos.
I'll try to redo. So I can get mine later?
Yeah. Okay, so George.
Yeah, my wife all of a sudden says to me, looking out of the window, oh my God, there's a hut in the backyard. So I grabbed my Sony cameras and I took this picture. And now I want to show you the cameras, the next one. So these are my Sony twin cameras, and those lenses are, I think they are 100 to 400 millimeter lenses. They're zoomed at 400 millimeters. So that's quite a bit heavy, but I can still manage to take it around. I have a belt that can support the main column of the belt, and I look through the viewfinders in 3D. And just to show you how far away I was when I took the picture, in the next one, I took one with my X-Real Beam Pro, and I kind of enlarged it a little bit, so that's the field of view of the 28mm wide-angle lens, and the circle is the pole where the hub was sitting at the top. That's about the field of view of the 400mm lens, and a little bit of cropping.
Okay, and that is very impressive. And so was that handheld when you took the picture of the hawk?
Yes, they were handheld, but I had the setup ready because I'm taking pictures of birds, so I just grabbed it and went outside. And so the shutter speed I use 1/500 of a second. So I have a relatively high speed and there's good stabilization on the cameras. And basically the cameras are aligned, I need to find the subject, and then I half press the shutter one and they both focus, and then I full press and then they take the picture. And I'm looking through the viewfinders when I do that, so I can see misalignment, stereo window, everything.
Okay, very nice. Thanks, George.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so I have one open projector thing, and so for people who don't know, I like toys. And so this is can you see it?
Yeah, see, there's all, see those pieces there. There's
Oh,
some,
yeah.
some other
Here.
pieces you make.
Here.
Yeah.
Did you make that?
Yes.
With his
Laser cut.
Wow.
laser cutter, yeah.
So basically for people on Zoom.
Is it wood?
It's wood. It's 5 layers of wood. And so I laser cut each layer and then glued the 5 layers together. Let me try to get it closer to the camera.
I'm sure everybody knows you like cats.
Yeah, I like cats and I also like toys. So.
So Herb, is that laser cutter all hooked up to the computer then? It's all
Yes,
programmed?
yes. So this is vector artwork. So each layer is like an Adobe Illustrator file, and so basically it's all. I mean, there's no filled shapes. It's just lines, and the laser cuts along each line. And so
Cool.
And so
Yep, great subject.
and then after it's cut, then I have to glue the 5 layers together. And so
It's very mid-century looking, which I'm into, and also the cat, so I may have to hire you to make me one of these.
oh, okay, well, yeah, we can talk about that.
Alright.
Okay, and so now it's time for election.
Hey, you could, I'm rolling against Jim.
Oh, okay, so I can go back to your open projector. Okay.
I've got something here about toys too.
Okay. So
Okay, next.
You should see the rabbit.
Yeah. I did, these are some experiments that I did a few years ago. Go ahead. Next.
That's awesome.
Kids' toys in the basement. Next. Try to make them stick through the window.
It does.
Yeah, right.
Maybe about there.
Touching it right there.
And some my granddaughter and my son. I'm interested in the younger girl's expression.
3D.
Now this is a 3D presentation that I did in a place called Oldfield where my wife and I lived before I moved here. That's Inez. And my kids and my grandkids know that they might want me to, they might want them to do a gesture like this. Bird bath. This is the lady that cuts my hair. Okay, next.
I think this is the last one.
Okay. Thank you, Herb.
All right.
Okay, so elections. So basically, we hold elections on the April meeting each year for a one-year term. We have 4 officers: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And the board, we don't have a fixed number of positions. It can be a variable, so for somebody who wants to get involved in running the club, being a board member is a good way to, sort of find out what the club is about, and then, if you were going to be an officer, it'd probably be a good idea to serve as a board member, for at least one term prior to running for an office. So this is the current officers and board members, and all of these people are willing to serve for another term. But if anybody else is interested in serving on the board, we'd be happy to consider nominations. The board meets at 7 p.m. Pacific time on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. So it's usually, but not always, the week prior to the meeting. Some months, the 3rd Wednesday is like almost 2 weeks prior to the 4th Monday, depending on how the calendar works out. So the first question is anybody else interested in serving on the board other than the people listed here?
Very interesting board meeting. We talk about a lot of things.
Okay, and so basically the next question is, or actually what I would propose is that we just approve the slate of officers as, a single vote rather than voting on each member. So obviously there's only one nomination for each of the 4 officers, so if we vote it down, then we need to find somebody else to run. So given that information, all in favor of the current slate of officers?
Aye.
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 Aye. And thank you to all of you for being willing to stay on.
And
Indeed. And congratulations.
Anyone opposed? Okay, congratulations, everybody. You get to serve another year.
It's an important
You get to
job.
see Herb every month.
And we're giving everybody a 50% increase in salary. So the next thing I wanted to mention, this is especially for people who live in Portland or the Portland metropolitan area. The PSA Photo Festival in 2025 is going to be in Portland, Oregon, the Wednesday, September 24th through Saturday, September 27th. Now, the PSA is, 3D is only a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of what the PSA does, but there is a 3D division of PSA, and the 3D division events are mostly going to be on Friday, September 26th. So if you only wanted to attend for one day, then Friday would be the day to attend. Except there is a 3D division dinner on Thursday evening, the 25th. In any case, I put the address of there. So the nice thing is you don't have any, if you live in Portland, you don't have any airfare and you don't have to worry about hotels. You can just drive out there in the morning, attend the events, and then drive home. So I am already registered. In fact, I have volunteered to run the projection for the 3D division events. So
that's great. That's great because we always had problems with projection previous year, so that's good to know.
You're giving Lee a hard time?
Yes, he is.
Oh, sorry.
It's so bad images that George gives.
So,
you have to be a PSA member to attend that?
You do not need to be a PSA member, although there is a substantial discount if you're registering for the entire week to be a PSA member. If you're, in other words, if you're only going to attend for one day, there's no discount for being a PSA member. But if you're going to attend all 4 days, then there is a discount for being a PSA member.
Yes, and the discount is high enough to pay for your membership.
Yes.
So, like my wife, who attended last year, and she's not really interested in stereophotography, I made her a PSA member so she can get discount.
Yes.
At the end, I saved a little money.
Yeah, so more details on an upcoming slide on becoming a PSA member.
And you'll see some great programs by George Simmons there too.
Well,
okay.
Also, I want to say I've learned a lot from the 2D programs too. If you're interested in photography, also the tours, of course for you locals, I don't know if you like to do the tours, but I always do all the tours and they're very good for photography.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, I'm sure that I'm sure I could benefit from some of the 2D programs because, you know, I am certainly not the most highly skilled either 3D or 2D photographer around. So, in any case, what I wanted to say is there is early bird registration for PSA members through Wednesday, April 30th, so 2 more days. So if you wanted to register for the entire 4 days, do it prior to Wednesday because you will get a substantial discount. So the next thing I wanted to point out is the PSA 3D Division non-star competition. So the non-star competition is open only to PSA members. If you are not a PSA member, you cannot enter the non-stars. Not that you pay more. You can't enter unless you're a PSA member. And it is only for PSA members who have not earned a star in 3D competitions. So what that means is if you enter this competition, you won't be competing against David, you won't be competing against George, you'll be competing against, you won't be competing against Lee. So basically what happens is you will have, beginners are encouraged, or less experienced photographers are encouraged to enter and actually have a chance to win an award. So even though there's no entry fee, it's one of the benefits that you get from being a PSA member. The PSA 3D division is providing a gold, silver, and bronze medal. So you have an opportunity to win more than just a little certificate. You have an opportunity to win a medal, with no entry fee. And unfortunately, I don't get to enter because I'm the chairman. Judges are David Allen, Gary Weiss, and Mark Wilkie. And winning images will be presented at the PSA Photo Festival and other places. They'll also, I think NYSA Presents is also going to be showing the winners at one of their shows. And now join PSA. So basically the previous two slides, you're eligible to compete in a non-star competition. You can actually save up to $125. So $200 versus $325. If you wanted to go for all 4 days of the PSA Photo Festival, it would be $325 for a non-member, $200 for a member. Okay, if you choose a digital membership, there's no printed journal. You can download the journals. There's a monthly journal in PDF format, so each month you can download a copy of the journal and either view it on your computer or print it yourself. It's only $45 if you wanted to join for 1 year, although if you join for 3 years you get a bit of a discount. It's $120 to join for 3 years. If you choose a print membership, then you get a printed copy of the journal, and that's about $20 a year more. So that's a choice you have. So in any case, if you're interested in attending the photo festival for all 4 days, join the PSA for for $45, and then save basically $125 on your registration. Okay, the last thing I want to announce, people who are, who knew Ron may have been or should probably aware that he passed away in December. There will be a memorial service on Friday, May 30th at 11 a.m. That is in Portland. I don't know if the dinner is in the same location or a different location. The only information I have is that it's approximately 5 p.m. and the details will be announced. But in any case, if you knew Ron, you may want to attend that memorial service. And finally, next 2 meetings. The next meeting is May 26th. The theme for that is action. Encourage people to start thinking about how to capture some action. And then the June general meeting, the theme is occupations, and we will also select images for the ISU Code Folio 36. The meeting is officially over, but anyway, I'd like to encourage anybody who'd like to hang around to just hang around and talk about any topics that are of interest to you. And if you're from the East Coast, where it's a bit later than it is now, we understand if you're tired and need to leave early. But in any case, thanks for attending, and hope to see you next month.
Thanks, Herb.
I'm going to have to step away at this point. Good to see everybody.
See you.
Thanks.
See you next month.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Take care of my wife.
Okay, thank you, David. And
See you next.
maybe next time bring your Lume Pad and maybe we can figure out how to make it do stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to mention that you can go to what's it called, promontory point?
Promontory Point? Yeah.
You can go there and they have a reenactment of the meeting of the trains. I did that a few years ago. They refurbished the trains. They're beautiful, beautifully looking trains, and they have a ceremony where they have speakers come out and talk about it. You get to learn some of the history. I thought the interesting thing was the government was giving bonuses to the two railroads for how many miles they got done because they wanted to get it done quickly. So they actually went past each other instead of meeting about 10 miles until they told them to cut it out. So then they met the two lines together.
There was a lot of conflict because they would build line, they would lay down rail where it had already been laid down in order to add to their miles, I guess, and get that bonus. One of our club photographers, Oleg Vorobyov, visited that. I guess it's a national park now. Got it written down here, the Golden Spike National Historic Park, and he did some really nice before and afters, and of the restored trains that are there. And of course, of all the structures that Russell photographed, those are all gone. And most of the open spaces are gone too. They've all been developed. Many of the spots you can't actually access anymore because they've built a highway through it or something like that.
Are there any print books with those side-by-side slides that you were?
There are. There's an excellent book. Let me grab it.
Well, the way I was going to say, we did go to the Promontory Point Park a few years ago, and they have a nice visitor center there, and we were able to see the area the trains had met, but they weren't reenacting anything when we were there, so that must be certain times of the year that they did that.
Yeah, it was during the summer.
Yes, I saw it several years ago, and look at the Chinese arch that's not that far away from it, too.
So I'm going to put a link in the chat, although Carl, I don't know if this helps you. These are some resources, and it includes a link to a book that I'll hold up to the camera after I figure out where I put the chat here. I just put some links in the chat. But this book by Daniel Davis, Across the Continent, the Union Pacific Photographs of Andrew J. Russell. There it is. This was published, I think, 5 years ago. It's readily available. The book reproduces quite a few stereo cards and some of the glass plate negatives that we scanned. And it has it's really well written. It's got a lot of information about the photographer himself, Andrew J. Russell. It's a quick read, but it's well illustrated. And if you can't get that link, just go to our website at ggstereo.org. And there's in fact, the most recent post is about these resources and includes a link to the book.
Thank you.
It's published by the University of Utah Press.
So Matt, I think I sent you some information on the silver paint. Have you looked at what kind of screen you're going to use for the Internet Archive? Whether you're going to use a silver painted screen or something portable?
So they determined that they want to replace a white screen that they currently have mounted in their, what they call it, the great room, sort of their main theater. Their plan is to replace that with a silver screen. and I guess they're budgeting that now. For the presentation that we give, as I said, we used a portable silver screen, which was fine for the crowd size that we had. We had about 20-25 attendees. I think beyond that, though, they're going to want more of like a movie theater type screen. So we'll see. They're still working that out.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm curious, is the Chinese arch a natural arch, or is that like a tunnel that they made for the railroad?
Oh, it's a natural arch.
Okay.
Look up Chinese arch on the Chinese arch Utah. You'll see a picture of it.
Hey Jim, I was wondering what the story is with your tuba. That looks like a well-used tuba.
I was gonna ask him that too.
Well, I was in my 20s and I'm walking past a music store and I saw that in the window. I said, that'd be fun to have. And so I bought it and it had been in the junior high band, they say. Let's see. I can't seem to turn on my other camera.
There it is.
That's great.
It's dented everywhere. I can't find a single part of it that's not dented. I can just imagine the junior high when the teacher wasn't there, pounding the mouthpiece against the horn. Anyway, my father rigged it up with the rope so that I could carry this thing with one hand, with the bell taken off in the middle. And I took it to Oklahoma, Florida, North Dakota, when I was there. And I played treble clef music, so I can pick up any. I learned to play. I learned the fingering on the trumpet. And then it comes out 2 octaves lower, same fingering. And those who play the trumpet probably know this, but you don't have to remember how to do your mouth and how to do the valves. You just do the right valves, think the right note, and how it comes.
Yes, I play trumpet. Did anyone stuff socks down the bell? Susan phone?
Well, that would work to make it not quite so loud. Well, I hope not a sock, maybe an old shirt, so I can pull it back on again.
Yeah, but I think I remember hearing that sometime around Christmas time, Portland has sort of a tuba Christmas concert, hundreds of people playing tubas, and you gotta join them when it comes around again.
Yeah, maybe I should do that. I went to listen to it once. It's in the Pioneer Courthouse Square.
I've always thought that would be fun to attend.
Sandcastles, tubas, we got it all.
Yeah.
I think it's a national thing, tuba Christmas.
I'm gonna head out now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to go inside the building.
Next month.
It would make a great 3D shot out of nothing else.
I was on the front page of the Oklahoma City paper one time. I worked with deaf and hard-of-hearing students. And so I was thinking they'd hear the lower register music better. So that was the theme of the article in the paper. It showed me blowing the horn and kindergarten sitting in the bell. Yeah, I've enjoyed it for a lot of years.
Could we revisit the silver screen topic for a moment?
Sure, happy to.
Hold on.
So, did you have a question, or do you just want me to talk about it?
No, I have a question. I used to work at the Science Museum, and the Science Museum hosted the local PBS studio room. And they would have, used to broadcast, I don't know, in the know and public meetings and things like that. Part of their setup had a large, well, relatively large silver screen. At one point in time, or just before COVID, they decided to move out, the PBS station decided to move out of the museum, and so the studio was torn down, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on this silver screen material. Now the question is, I know that in terms of projecting on silver screens, and there are screens that are silver, and there are screens that are just painted silver, and some work with polarization and some don't. How do I test my screen material to see if it would work for a polarized projection setup?
Good question.
Wait, so you have access to the screen and you want to test it?
Yeah, I have it down in the basement. It's about...
Why don't you project?
I don't have any polarizing filters to project with at this point.
Well, you can take a pair of polarizing glasses and project light through them. I mean, you can buy just plastic polarizers, sheet like 4 by 4 inches or something.
Yeah.
And then you can put a beam of light and then take another polarizer, turn it around, and see if it disappears or it's shown extinction. That's how you... I had a study of projection screens somewhere on the internet. I can send you links. I did exactly this. I had all those screens, and I made a little setup where I was projecting a beam of light through a polarizing sheet, and then I was rotating another one, and I was measuring with the light meter how much light was going through. When the two polarizers are crossed, you should have the minimum amount of light, so the less light you have, the better the extinction is. And then I did that at different angles, because when you look straight at the screen,
Come
you
in.
get the maximum extinction when you move at an angle, then it starts dropping.
Sorry.
Also, you can measure the brightness of the screen, because different screens have different brightnesses. But
Also, if you have a very old screen, it will be lenticular. You probably don't need the lenticular for modern usage. The newer ones don't have that. And watch out for screens that say they project stereo when they really mean they project anamorphic. You don't want that.
Well, that sounds pretty straightforward. I've got a couple pairs of glasses and test them out. Thank you. I'll let you know.
Anybody like to borrow my ViewMaster stereo projector?
Oh, those are very rare.
See if that works.
I know those ViewMaster
Are you
projectors
going
are
to
very
ask
rare.
about the screen here in Portland?
No, Mike isn't in Portland.
No, I'm out in Ohio.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I have a stereo ViewMaster projector and silver screen. Okay. Now I'm going to do it again.
I bought a pair of circular polarizing filters, the ones that I mounted in front of our projectors. And I think the set cost $10. I bought them on Amazon. I just searched for circular polarizing filters, and then I thought I should buy a backup. And they're $20 now, but I went ahead and bought them. So they aren't too hard to find. I think they took a week and a half to arrive. And it turns out I didn't necessarily need the backup, but they're good to have.
If you go to most libraries, they will either have matte white screens, which are not good, or they will have beaded screens with little glass beads on them. No good.
got to be the silver.
Yeah, basically the problem is if you don't have a proper screen, then when the light reflects off it, it doesn't retain its polarization, and so what you need is a screen that is, when it reflects, it retains its polarization.
This was part of a setup for effectively a green screen where they would have a camera with a ring of green LEDs around the lens. They would then photograph kids in front of the screen and then do video backgrounds. A green screen thing for Children's Science Museum. So maybe maybe not. It's summer's coming up, and I thought it would be fun to try to do set screen up outside the backyard and try to do 3D movies in the backyard.
It's worth a try, yeah. Do you have two projectors, or do you have a 3D projector?
That's something else that working at a science museum allows you is to get broken equipment. So
Nice.
I have multiple projectors. One has like 7 dead pixels. The other has 150 dead pixels. And there's such a variety that I could probably buy a used one in great working condition for about $25 to match up with them. So.
Yeah, that'll definitely work, at least for an experiment. The two projectors that we used were not specific for 3D at all. They were just a couple of old projectors, and they worked fine. We did have to adjust the keystoning a bit, and the keystone tools on the projectors that we used were pretty limited. But hey, nobody complained that the picture wasn't exactly square. So it was fine.
I would think that screen that you obtained is silver. It should work 3D. As far as I know, any silver screen will work. But as George said, some work better than others. So it would be worth testing out. But if it's truly silver, it should be fine in 3D.
I think they're sold in different degrees of reflectivity as well. I don't know what the numbers are. I was afraid our screen would be too reflective because it's really intended for like realist projectors that typically have much dimmer light. But as it turned out, it worked fine. I think we just got lucky with that.
Thank you for all the comments, guys.
There are many projectors that are 3D projectors. You can just use one projector. But you probably want to have a passive one, not an active one. But the active ones have the advantage you can project on your living room wall or a bed sheet.
Yeah,
Right.
so as far as I know, any 3D projector that you buy is going to be an active projector. And an active projector means you need active glasses which run on a battery, which means you need to deal with dead batteries and either recharge them or replace the button cell batteries. If you want a passive projector system, what you need to do is buy a traditional 3D active projector and then get something known as a polarizing modulator, which is basically the same type of thing that is in the active glasses. And what it does is it connects typically with a synchronization cable to the projector and switches its polarization at the same rate as the projector is switching its polarization, so that instead of using an active glasses for each observer, you have the one polarizing modulator, which then converts the signal to a circularly polarized, and then everybody wears passive glasses. And Lee and Mark and I each have polarizing modulators. As a matter of fact, I now have a second polarizing modulator, which I bought when I think somebody was closing out their stock of it, because there was somebody had then inquired about purchasing one, and the link on the internet had gone away. There is at least one company that still makes polarizing modulators, but they're probably more expensive. They're probably a higher grade, but they're probably more expensive.
Laboratory equipment.
Movie theater equipment. A lot of them use that sort of thing, but at many thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so there's one. This company makes one that's rated for up to 5,000 lumens, which is basically a home projector, and then the other one that's for movie theaters, which handles much more power, and they don't put the price for either of them online, so you have to contact them for a price quote. So I think if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
All right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. Great slideshow tonight. Thanks for your feedback, everyone. I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, Matt.
Good night, all.
I'm gonna head out too.
Okay.
Been a blast. See you all next time.
Take care.
I guess we all have to go.
Physical keys.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Great program. Great meeting.
What's that?
Yep. Bye,
Great
guys.
meeting.
Bye.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Herb. Thank you, Herb, for all you do.
Okay. Take care.
Well, I can walk up. I can walk up.
I don't know.
Okay, well, I guess if there's nothing else, I guess I'll end the meeting, so have a good evening, everyone.
Recording